Hello everyone, thanks for joining us. Happy afternoon from Caracas. For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle. To begin today, we go to Argentina. That's where, for the first time in 17 years in Latin America, the right wing has defeated an incumbent progressive government at the ballot box. With a pro-market and neoliberal rhetoric, Mauricio Macri won Sunday's presidential election by a tight 3% against Daniel Scioli, the candidate of the ruling Front for Victory. Now, the vote there revealed a deeply divided Argentina. Scioli called Macri to congratulate him on his victory and highlighted the value of democracy.
First of all, I want to greet the wonderful people of Argentina with all my affection and gratitude for an exemplary day of democracy, during which, by the will of the people, a new president has been elected, the engineer Mauricio Macri, whom I just greeted on the phone, wishing him success for our country's sake.
And as our correspondent Leo Puletti reports now, despite his victory there, Macri will likely face an uphill challenge building consensus in the parliament, where his coalition lacks a majority in both houses.
Mauricio Macri won the historic runoff election and will be Argentina's new president. The leader of the right-wing Cambiemos coalition won by a narrow margin and will take oath on December 10.
Thanks for believing that together we can build the Argentina we all dream of. This is a new era. It is a change of era, which I told you about, and you believed in it. That will be wonderful.
Macri harvested a much thinner victory than what opinion polls in the lead-up to the election indicated, victorious by a mere 3 percentage points. In his first speech as president-elect, he asked those Argentines who didn't vote for him to join him, and he said that Argentina has much to offer the world.
Today, I also want to talk to our Latin American brothers. To all the brothers of the world, I would like them to know that we want to have good relations with all countries. We want to work with everyone. We know that the Argentine people have much to contribute to the world.
Daniel Scioli of the ruling Front for Victory conceded electoral defeat a little after 9:30 p.m. when the amount of votes counted had just reached halfway. He acknowledged the will of the popular vote and said he hoped that the next government would protect the social achievements gained by the FPV governments.
Governments always fall short, but it's also fair to acknowledge everything that we have done to move forward, and we must look after all those achievements. That will surely be our responsibility from the 10th of December.
President-elect Macri will not have it easy in the Argentine parliament. His coalition will not have majority blocks, neither in the Senate or in the lower house, trailing the FPV in both chambers. Leo Puletti, Telesur, Buenos Aires.
And we're going to turn now to our correspondent for more in Argentina, Laureano Ponce. We know that Mauricio Macri held a news conference this morning where he laid out his plans for his next term, which, as we just heard from Leo, will begin on December 10th. Our correspondents there, Leonel Poletti and Laureano Ponce, have been covering this race since the beginning. We're standing by for a call from Laureano to talk about that press conference that Mauricio Macri recently held. Again, reviewing the elections in Argentina, the end result was much closer than some of the polls had shown, just 3 percentage points in favor of Mauricio Macri. Okay, we now have Laureano on the phone, so let's talk about that press conference by Mauricio Macri. Laureano, what did he lay out? What did he talk about? Give us a run through, if you will, and especially about the economy.
That is right. Hello, Cody, to you and to the audience. Well, the press conference held today by Mauricio Macri early in the morning was centered around the economy, mainly because of the questions that the reporters were asking, because as we all expect, his main differences with the Front for Victory governments will be centered in economy and also in international affairs. But relating to the economy, he said that he will not, when he was asked about the possibility of his who will be his economy minister, he said he will have an economic cabinet who will be headed by 6 ministers and led by a minister of finance. Those 6 ministers will also handle things like labor, energy production, transport, agriculture, and farming, besides other issues. And he also said that his future chief cabinet will be Marcos Peña. Marcos Peña is the one who led his electoral campaign. He is still the mayor. He also said that he wanted the press to be a little bit patient, because there is very little time between nowadays and December 10, when he will come to office. Relating to the small differences between him and Daniel Scioli in the polls, in Argentina, after the polls showed some results that were never achieved in the October 25 general elections, the polls and the surveys are not really seen that as something that trustable as it were before. But it does show that there is almost 50% of the people who wanted to continue with the political process that was triggered by Néstor Kirchner in 2003. But relating to the economy, as you were asking before, those are the main news. He only said he will have these 6 ministers. He didn't make any political or economic definitions. He continues with this idea that was installed during his campaign, that he is avoiding economic definitions, as some of his plans are already known here in Argentina. Some of the measures he will apply are already known here in Argentina, that were taken during the neoliberal government during the 90s, especially under Carlos Menem, and that they had some really devastating results.
What about Laureano? Has he specifically addressed, there's a lot of concern that perhaps some of the social achievements, some of the social welfare programs of the last decade could start to be rolled back under a possible Macri presidency, which certainly would be in line with neoliberal ideology. Has he specifically addressed that subject?
He has actually avoided addressing that subject. The only moment when that subject was addressed was yesterday, after the results were known by his vice president candidate, Gabriela Michetti, who is now the vice president-elect, and she said that they, in the Let's Change coalition, they know that many people are afraid of losing some of those social welfare programs, but they are nothing to be afraid about. But however, they have always avoided to actually address that subject. What we can understand by taking into consideration other measures like lowering taxes for the exporting sectors, or lowering taxes for the big landowners who are right now in Argentina the main soybean producers. The soybean exports are very important for the state income here in Argentina. Then that raises a question, because if he's going to lower all those taxes, where is he going to get the money from in order to keep on with those social welfare programs? That is something that many people are wondering right now here in Argentina. But as I was saying before, specifically, and he has avoided to address the subject. Every time he's asked about that, Macri always says, there's nothing to be afraid about, people will not have nothing to worry about, we will start to unite all Argentinians, but he always avoids to specifically say something about that.
All right, Laureano Ponce reporting there after historic, important elections in Argentina. Laureano, thank you.
Thanks to you, Cody.
We go to Colombia now, where the Colombian government has now announced that it will pardon 30 members of the FARC guerrillas. The decision comes as a token of goodwill, if you will, on behalf of the government delegation. The pardoned men were jailed for the crime of rebellion, and they had not committed any violent action. The FARC guerrillas had issued a statement last week warning the government that many FARC prisoners were facing deteriorating health due to poor conditions in prison. And the FARC leader Rodrigo Londoño, also known as Timochenko, has announced that the FARC and the government have reached agreements on 74 of the 75 points relating to transitional justice. The two sides agreed to a general framework on this key aspect of the peace talks in September. They now say they want to reach a final peace accord before their agreed deadline of March 23rd, 2016. That transitional justice issue has been controversial in Colombia. To understand it better now, we're going to turn to our correspondent Natalia Margarita there in Bogota. Natalia, that announcement of the agreement in regards to the 74 points regarding transitional justice, does it mean at all that we could reach a final agreement before March?
Well, it means that the parties involved continue to answer one of the most, if not the most complicated and challenging issues of the whole negotiation, which is transitional justice and the compensation for the victims. Now we're talking here about 74 points, but those are 74 points within the issue of justice, which is just 1 point of a 6-point negotiation agenda, Cody. So then the issue of reaching a final agreement or signing the final peace accord before the 23rd of March not just depends on the point of issue, but on having successfully reached agreements on all of the 6 points of the negotiation agenda. Now, to provide a bit more of context on these points of the negotiation agenda, so far the parties, the FARC and the government, have reached agreements on basically four out of these 6 points of the negotiation agenda, which is political participation, rural development, illegal drugs, and this one of justice that they still, as you said, missing one more point. They have reached 74 points out of 75 within this only issue of justice. So I would say that what this is telling us is that they continue advancing in this very challenging issue, but I insist that to reach a final agreement depends on successfully reaching agreements on all the 6 points of the negotiation agenda.
All right, Natalia Margarita reporting there from Bogota. Natalia, thanks.
Back to you, Cody.
Violent protests continued over the weekend in Haiti. The political opposition there says they're claiming that there was fraud in last month's elections. Now, clashes between the police and protesters have already left 1 demonstrator dead and dozens injured. Opposition politicians have been demanding the resignation of the Provisional Electoral Council. Now, Haiti is set to hold a second round of elections on December 27th. To Venezuela now, the Patriotic Poll Coalition held trial elections on Sunday throughout the country. Almost 2 million Venezuelans took part in this event. Now, it aimed to show voters how to avoid some common mistakes while they are voting. Now, the Patriotic Poll, which includes the governing United Socialist Party of Venezuela, is preparing for parliamentary elections. They are set to be held on December 6th. The world's gas-producing nations are meeting in Iran to discuss global gas prices. The Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and Russian President Vladimir Putin have been meeting during that summit in Tehran. The 12 nations president are also expected to address the growing concern over terrorism, but the main focus will be on measures to stabilize the falling prices of gas.
We will evaluate. I think that there's a difference between oil and gas. There will be an important debate. We will share our views regarding the new global prices for hydrocarbons so that the prices of both oil and gas can recover at the same time.
Belgian police have made 16 arrests in anti-terror raids over the weekend, but have they caught the mastermind behind the Paris attacks? We'll have the latest when we come back. The world is divided among continents and nations. Nations are divided by borders and interests. These interests divide the news. We examine the impact of these divisions on people and power. This is Imaginary Lines. Watch it on telesurtv.net/English. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there. A world infinitely connected. Millions of people instantaneously interacting. Experiences relayed in 144 characters. Millions of lives in every corner of the planet. They're not tweets, they're stories. Watch it on telesurtv.net/English. Tell us, sir, wherever the news, you'll be there. Rod stars G1 and Claudia de la Cruz are Rebel Diaz, hip-hop activists positioned within a history of political resistance through music. And you don't stop. They invite young people to express themselves about their social struggles. And you don't stop. Watch it on telesurtv.net/English. Tell us, sir, wherever the news, you'll be there. The conflict in Syria has also been discussed on the sidelines of that gas summit in Tehran. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has reportedly held talks with Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, seeking to strengthen the strategic alliance between the two countries. Now, both leaders are important allies of Syria's President Bashar al-Assad. The Syrian army says it has made some significant gains on the battlefield. According to state media, the Syrian army has recovered control of two cities that were controlled by the Islamic State group, Mahin and Harahin. Now, both are located in the province of Homs and were the last strongholds of the group in that area. Russia's Ministry of Defense says that over the weekend, their Air Force flew 141 sorties and hit 472 terrorist targets in Syria. The Belgian government is continuing its search for one of the authors of the deadly attacks in Paris last week. Now, the capital, Brussels, remained on lockdown for most of the weekend. And on Sunday night, the police and the army raided several areas and arrested 16 suspects. French and Belgian authorities said they had credible evidence that another attack was set to be carried out on Sunday. Now, meanwhile, the hacktivist group Anonymous also warned that after hacking dozens of social media accounts belonging to ISIS, they had found evidence of plans to carry out attacks in different cities worldwide, including Paris. Meanwhile, the French President François Hollande has met British Prime Minister David Cameron to discuss ongoing efforts in the battle against the Islamic State group. The meeting comes as Cameron announced a new package of cuts to social programs in order to increase military spending. Now, earlier this year, the British leader failed to gain parliamentary approval to join U.S.-led airstrikes in Syria. But after both leaders met, Cameron indicated he would try again.
I want to praise the swift and decisive action taken by the French authorities in response and to prevent further attacks in Paris, and in particular pay tribute to the bravery of French police officers. It is absolutely right to take decisive action to stop terrorists when they are threatening the lives of innocent citizens. The United Kingdom will do all in our power to support our friend and ally France to defeat this evil death cult.
Tensions between Israeli security forces and Palestinians have shown no signs of slowing down. Earlier this Monday, a Palestinian woman was killed and another wounded after attempting to stab pedestrians at a market in Jerusalem. According to Israeli police, a Palestinian who was shot and killed was 16 years old, while the other assailant was just 14 years old. The younger teen was seriously wounded and taken to the hospital. Police said they both stabbed the pedestrians with scissors. Human rights organizations are criticizing the disproportionate response by the Israeli government. Over 160,000 army personnel were deployed throughout Egypt for the last day of parliamentary elections. After a more than 3-year hiatus, the elections will restore parliamentary life in that country. The new parliament will contain 568 elected members. For a fifth day, refugees stranded at Macedonia's border with Greece are protesting against border screening procedures there. Around 1,300 refugees were left stranded on the border after Macedonia imposed a new policy for filtering migrants. Some of the refugees have launched a hunger strike. This screening procedures have raised concerns among rights groups as a growing number of people are stranded in tents and around campfires just as winter is approaching there. In light of recent attacks around the world, the leaders of India and Malaysia have agreed to work together on improving defense and security ties. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met his Malaysian counterpart Najib Razak in his first ever state visit to Malaysia following the 2-day regional summit in Kuala Lumpur. Now, during a news conference held after their bilateral talks. Cyclers from Eritrea, Morocco, France, South Africa, and elsewhere competed in the Tour de Wanda 2015. Ultimately, Jean Bosco Nisigema took the title there. Now, the young cycler comes from Wanda and stood out throughout the week by winning 3 stages in the cycling competition. The 22-year-old recorded the first major victory of his young career after clocking 23 hours and 54 minutes in the 7-stage race that covered a distance of over 900 kilometers. And in Algeria now, some youth there are breaking with conservative stigmas. Despite religious rejection of the music genre over the weekend, a heavy metal festival was held there. The Fest 213, as it's called, brought together Algeria's best metal bands and attracted thousands of fans from around the country. Heavy metal emerged in that country, in the North African country, during the 90s when Algeria was struggling with a war against religious extremism that left hundreds of thousands dead. Mexico City now is commemorating the Mexican tradition of Lucha Libre wrestling with a museum exhibit. The exhibit, entitled Lucha Libre Over Time, opened on November 19th and showcases over 1,000 masks, photos, and some other items from recent history of Lucha Libre, or free fight wrestling as it would be translated. Now, the museum has been organized by the Museum of the Objective of the Object. The exhibit runs until March 27th, 2016, and will also feature workshops for designing masks and some of the other items that are on display. That's what we're covering this Monday afternoon here from Caracas. Check out our website for the latest news, telesurtv.net/English. Join us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. Regan Devine back with you in just a few hours.